We are now being joined by our friend Sasha Luten from Farmer's Best. Sasha, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Um, Rounding up the day, it's probably about an hour left on the show. Still plenty of activity. Sasha being a local, so to speak, right? I
Yes,
mean, you're
indeed.
based in Nogales.
Based in Nogales. Yes, sir.
Based in Nogales, a stone's throw away from Tucson. Uh, we asked Sasha to join us to give us a little bit of insight on the show, the feedback from customers or from attendees, I should say. Um, how he's seen the show so far grow over the last couple of years, for example. Any feedback you might want to share with our viewers to encourage them to attend next year?
To attend next year, sure. I mean, I think that the feedback that I heard for years was that the show when it was down in Nogales, it wasn't a serious one, and I think that the association has made a huge effort in making it a more serious show, and I think it's become exactly that. A lot of great feedback from customers that are attending, and a lot of promises to return and bring more people from their companies. So it's really great to hear. Yeah.
Definitely more commercially viable, I guess you'd say.
Absolutely,
Right?
yeah.
The education sessions were great. Certainly interested from a business perspective, things that are on the front of your mind, or at least what kind of keeps you up at night, or what's taking more of your bandwidth than maybe it did last year. Do you have anything that you'd share with us?
Sure, I would be remiss though if I didn't mention one of the reasons to come to Tucson is the weather, especially right now.
Yeah.
No, it's some of the things that are on my mind, our mind at Farmer's Best is certainly um, the tomato suspension agreement or the lack thereof this year, tariffs, that's top of mind, but not necessarily from a point of view of fear, just trying to get more clarity and offer more clarity to our customers. I think the message that, we should be sending out there is that, there's plenty of product in the ground and coming to the US and, that's going to continue with or without tariffs.
You mentioned the tomato suspension agreement, and while it's an additional cost input, the effect at least of it, we haven't really talked about today. We've talked about tariffs. Is there a path forward on is there, well, clearly there would be a path forward, but what's the next toll gate on the suspension agreement? Is there a future extension possible? Is it a matter of rewriting the extension, or is it completely blown up and starting from the ground
Yeah,
floor?
my understanding is that the tomato suspension agreement is gone, and I should correct myself, not tariffs, duties,
Okay.
which matters.
Sure.
So no, my understanding is that the tomato suspension agreement is over, and will not likely return in any way. So yeah, I think the next step is Commerce will do an investigation, and audit us again in I think 12 months now. So yeah.
So it's long term.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's something that we're going to be living with, but I certainly think that it's something that we can live with, and that the Mexican tomato industry is going to continue to push forward into the future. Maybe not as aggressively as we once were, but it's definitely a headwind, but we'll continue to grow.
So we had Ron Lemaire actually on today. It was an interesting perspective, his perspective and why it was important. He felt important for him to be here, representing, his Canadian membership. Obviously, Canadian retailers purchase Mexican grown product, which is something that maybe a lot of folks don't think about. I mean, I didn't really think about it that much, honestly, until I saw him.
Yeah.
Very self-centered, I guess, point of view. But do you all ship anything into Canada per se?
Yeah, we ship, we have Canadian customers, and I mean, they, are just as important to our programs as, our US customers. And, we have a team in Mexico that sells into Mexico. So we don't really look at it so much as a them versus us scenario.
Sure.
It's a continent that we're selling to and providing fresh supply to.
Great point. Um, well, it's hard to focus on anything more materially than that, but anything you would say that is harder to do this year than perhaps last year from a challenge perspective. I mean, I think weather. We talked water for some of our guests that are based out of Texas. That's been a big issue for us from the treaty and the kind of the deficit with Mexico as far as water. I mean, a lot of the growers in Texas, for example, are planting less because they just don't have the water to grow.
Yeah.
Is that impacting also in northern Mexico?
Not where we grow. We grow largely in San Luis Potosí and then in Sinaloa and a little bit in Sonora. And so far we've been fortunate not to have water issues. The water issues that we had in the past, specifically in Sinaloa, have gone by the wayside, and the reservoirs are in good shape now. So like we feel good. I think our major headwind, if there is one, but it seems like our production team seems to be managing through it well, is labor in Mexico. That's become more expensive and sometimes harder to find. And that's we're working through that. That's all we can do. Yeah. So a little bit more automation, come into our neck of the woods, so to speak, and that's the way we're going to proceed forward.
From a labor perspective, what would you say is your largest competition? I mean, I'm assuming it's industrial, like maquiladora.
Yeah,
Industry?
yeah, yeah. I mean, candidly, who wants to, be in a hot field, picking tomatoes when, you can work in an, uncovered environment. So, I
Sure.
mean, like, I understand it. But yeah, that's the biggest challenge right now. Mexico has been developing, continues that development. There's more educated people down there, which is a great thing for the whole country, but it's growing pains for us,
Yeah.
as growers. So yeah.
Yeah. And there are a number of growers, obviously. I think we think of the region as a large, very large whole, but I've seen the list on some of the data that AMPAC sends out.
Uh-huh.
And they have a very robust data set of information, between volume and packages shipped or cases shipped and membership, etc. What impressed me the most was their number of the members, and which obviously represents growers. So
Right.
there are a ton of growers in Mexico,
There are a
obviously.
lot
It's
of
like I
growers.
tell people that aren't as close to the border that call me sometimes for information, maybe on the west side of Mexico, right, or like in Baja or something. I tell them, it's like a whole other country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you asking me the question between the difference between Texas and California, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole other set of dynamics there. So, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
challenges, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, Transportation pretty accessible right now for you guys. I mean, it's
In Mexico, yes. In the U.S., that's been a challenge over the last few weeks, but that's a seasonal blip, and we work through that and continue on. It's a little bit of concern, long term, about driver availability, and I mean it's on our minds, but we're not panicked about it at all.
sure.
Yeah.
Wow. What's the next thing you're looking forward to? I would say. I mean, do you guys have any products you're working on right now? Anything from a
Yeah. I mean, we are in the thick of our season right now.
right?
This is prime time for
So it's not
Farmers
product
Best.
development season,
It's
right?
it's not product
Okay.
development. Meeting season is over, and selling season is on full bore. So I mean,
Gotcha.
we're pushing out, kind of our peak volume right now. We did bring on last year a new program where we're doing hard squashes, green beans. Those are two new programs. And more recently this year on a contract basis only, we're doing some 11-pound bell peppers, which has been probably 15 years since we last did something like that. So
Back by popular demand.
yeah, dipping our toe back in the water, getting out of our comfort zone a little bit, and working on some new projects. But
I mean, is that naturally, would you say, like a shift from volume perspective? I mean, you're shifting from some tomato volume that perhaps, given the challenges, I mean, is it better to diversify, or is that just strictly like upside growth?
I think you have to diversify for your customer.
Okay.
I mean, that's really what's driving, our decisions into like, how do we become more valuable, more important as a supplier to our partners. And that's really what's driving most of our decision making, not so much from a standpoint of like, diversifying for the sake of, trying to spread yourself out. We're being intentional about trying to be more important to our client, be more, more of a valuable supplier.
Stickier.
Stickier. Yeah, you bet.
I heard that recently.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, Sasha, I would say thanks for having us, being from out of town. So
No,
we love it here. This is our first year, and we'll definitely be back. This is a great part of the country. Thanks again for joining us.
thank you.
And until next time, thanks again for watching and listening. Thank you.